Microsoft Excel includes many useful functions which can reduce our time and effort considerably. So in this session, we'll be covering Vlookup, Hlookup and Match in Excel. The session will be taken by Mr. Aniruddha Kalbande, who is the co-founder of Fireplace Technologies, and he has also delivered more than 5,000 hours of training. Now, before we start off with the session, I'd like to inform you guys that we'll be coming up with a series of high-quality tutorials on cloud computing, cybersecurity, and deep learning. So please do subscribe to our channel so that you get a notification of our upcoming videos. So let's start off with the session.
So now let's start with Vlookup. So what does Vlookup mean? In Vlookup, it is used to make exact match or approximate match with certain value in the leftmost column. So we try to map a certain value which we mention, or it could be exact value or an approximate value to that value, whichever we are trying to look, in the leftmost vertical column. So this is how Vlookup would work. And what would be the syntax for this Vlookup? Vlookup will need to write out first attribute in Vlookup would be the lookup value which we are trying to find out. Second would be the table or the range of all the values or the matrix in which we are searching this, that is the leftmost column of this. And then we'll need to mention out the column index number out of which we are trying to get the value of. Okay, so now when the match would be made, like whatever we are trying to look up, whatever the parameter which we are trying, whatever is the number which we are trying to look in the leftmost column, if it is being matched, what this Vlookup would do, it would return you certain value of that particular column which you will be mentioning out in the column index number of that particular row of where the value would have been matched. So this would be the column index number would be the third argument, and the fourth argument would be the range look up boolean value, that is if you want to perform it exact match or an approximate match. So depending on that, we will be writing 1 or 0 over there. So now let's try and find out what this Vlookup is in Excel with related to example. Okay, so let's take this scenario in which we have certain names, IDs, names, gender, age and city. So say for example, we want to check what was the city of the ID 103. So say for example, we want to check what was the city, from which city does this ID 103 belong to. How will we do that? There is no way we could directly just sort it out or filter it out, right? But if we want to directly fetch that value, so for fetching that value, we'll use Vlookup. Now what is the value which we need to find out or match in the leftmost column? That is 103. So I have mentioned this 103 over here. We'll select this 103 value from this particular reference, that is D12. So this would be our first argument when we'll pass our Vlookup. So let's check this. So Vlookup, we just wrote equals to Vlookup, that is our function name, and then selected out the first argument, that is whatever we want to search in the leftmost column, that was 103. And then we need to specify the range wherein we want to search this data. So we wanted to search this data from this particular position till this particular position, that is the range of your table, that is A3 to E9, right? Then what we want to find out? We want to find out the city, or from what place that particular ID person was. We don't want name, we don't want gender, we won't want age, we want the city. So what is the column number for city feature? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since this is 5 or 5th column and we want to match the 103 value exactly, that is why we are using 5 over here as a third argument, that is the column number, and false over here because we want to match it with the exact value. And when we'll run this, we'll get Mumbai as 103 is getting matched with this particular value, which we can see over here. Now say for example, if I don't want exact match, I want some approximate match. So let's try and find out what result we get when we try to find out approximate match. So when we are finding approximate match, we'll use our fourth attribute as true, because that is when our code will tell that we want to find approximate match. And let's find out ID, because since this Vlookup would check only our first column, that is why we'll write this 110. And since we are using 110, so this Vlookup would have certain value nearest to it that would be highest but smaller than this value. That would, we want a value which is highest, like just the smallest value than this, which would be 103. And we want to find out what is the city for it. For this particular ID, nearest this particular ID, below than this, we want to find out the city of that particular student. So how will we do that? We'll need to take this as the first argument. Then we'll need to select the whole table or the data range. Yes. And then we'll need to check the column number which we want the data out of. And then we'll need to mention it out true, because we want approximate match, not the exact match. Because if we take 110 and if we try to take exact match, it would give us null, because there is nothing as 110 in the ID column. There is only approximate value. Okay. So this is how we wrote Vlookup. Whatever we want to search, that is E12, that is 110. Wherever we want to search the range, and after it is matched approximately, we want value of the same index or same row for that particular number of column, that is 5th, and true, that is approximate match. So when we'll hit enter, we'll get Goa, because 110 near to 110, that is 103. Okay. Now say for example, I don't want Goa. I want name of particular person who is having 103 as ID. So what I'll do, where I'll make changes, I'll try to find out 103. So my first argument would be D12, which is here. So Vlookup, that is I want to look up in a vertical manner for the first column throughout the data set, because if the value would be there, then it would be returning throughout the data set. Then second, because I want the name and my name column is second, and I want approximate match. I want the exact match, not the approximate match. That is why I am turning this false. And when I'll hit enter, it will try to match exactly with 103. And wherever, whichever person would have 103 ID, it would show its name. That is value of first column, second column, 2. So when I'll hit enter, it would give me Priya. Now what would happen if I'll try to find out exact match of a variable, of a number which is not there in ID? It shall return me null like this. So see here, I tried to make exact match of 155 in our first leftmost column, exact match, and then if it is matching, I want the name. But is it there? No. Is 155 there in our first column? No. Therefore, no question of getting ahead, since we are trying to check only the exact match, since it is false over here and we are not getting it. So it is returning me null. Now say for example, if it is returning null, I want a message to be displayed that value not found, like this one over here. I want such value to be such message to be displayed, value not found. What would I do? We have a syntax for it, or we have a function for it that checks for null value. So as we learned if and else, similarly if and else, we have if na. So if na, it would check for true and false. If null is there in the condition, then it would do something, or else it would give you the value. Okay, so if and if only there is null in the condition, then and then only it would display something out. So let's see how the code for that would look like. So check, I have passed this if null function first, and what does this if null function tells me? That if null value, if it is null, then it would display something. If null, then what? So I pass the same syntax for Vlookup over here, that is F12. I am checking for this, that is not there in my first leftmost column, that is this one, and it would return a null like this in the as the first argument of my if null. Since it is null, it would do whatever is written over here in the second argument. If it is not null, it won't do anything. If it is null, it would do whatever is written as a second argument of my if null. So what is written in my second argument of my is null? Value not found. So since this is null, we are getting value not found. And if it won't have been null, then you would have got the same value. So this is how, in short, our Vlookup works. So this is a very dynamic function to find some value. We just have to match some value of which is there in your leftmost column. It is matched vertically, and if it is there, then it displays us the value of same row in which it has matched, and it returns us the value of the same row which it has matched of the column which we have mentioned. We have two different types in it: exact, approximate. If you want exact match, make it false. If you want approximate match, make it true. Approximate match will try to match it and give it to you the least highest number of match. Like if it is 38, and if there is lowest highest number of match to it, like 35 or 33 is the highest, then it would give you 33 rather than 38, which is just next to 37. Lowest highest number of match, that would check. So this is how your Vlookup would work. Now we'll try to see how our Hlookup works. Hlookup is very similar to your Vlookup, but it checks on the first row instead of the leftmost column. That is what, instead of, like, see how Vlookup checks, it tries to match the value with the leftmost column vertically. Hlookup will try to map with the topmost row all the values. So you'll have to check with topmost row. That is why it is called as horizontal lookup. So it would try to check horizontally in the topmost row. But before that, let's try to see what are the different scenarios in Vlookup which are same as your Hlookup. So say for an example, you have some case sensitive element to be found out. Would it work or not? So keep in your mind that Vlookup is case insensitive. That is, even if you are trying to match some value which you have mentioned in small case, it will still return you if it matches it with the uppercase value. With the text, if it is higher case and if it is uppercase and you are trying to map it with lowercase, still it would match and return you the value. And if there are two same matches it would display you the value of that particular row which is coming first. So say for example, if I am trying to search 34 and I have 2 times 34 in my leftmost column. So whichever 34 on whatever row is coming first, it would select that and then try to display me that particular value. If there is no match, it won't display me. It would return me null. So this is exactly the same manner how your Hlookup works. Just the difference is that it checks the topmost row. So your syntax is also same for Hlookup. It would be lookup value, that is whatever you want to search in the topmost row. Table array, that is you have to specify the range. Then you have to select the column index number, that is whatever you had over here, the column index number, the number of column which you wanted to display. Since our city was 5th, that is why we mentioned 5th. Earlier there we wanted name, so that is why we mentioned 2nd. So in Hlookup it would be number of rows, right? Row index number you'll have to specify, like if you want a row which is at the topmost third row from the top, then you'll have to write our third argument as 3. If you want 10th row value of the same particular selected column, then you'll have to write 10 over there as a third argument. Now you have to look for your 4th argument, which would be again a boolean argument, that is true and false, which would be again depending on the exact value and the approximate value. If it is false, it will try to search for exact value. If it is true, it will try to search for approximate value. Everything is same over here in Hlookup. Just the difference is that it would check for topmost row and give you value according to the number of row which you have specified. That's it. Let's try to see this in Excel. But before that, all the parameters which we saw for Vlookup, that is, it is case insensitive, it matches with the first match, and it returns null if it is exact and still doesn't have any value, all holds true for Hlookup as well as they did for Vlookup. Now let's try and see. So yes, now what we'll try to do is, we'll try to see how Hlookup works in the very similar fashion to our Vlookup. Now you can try and understand this code. This D12 is reference for this Ajay, and Ajay it will try to find out in the topmost row. If Ajay is there in topmost row, if it is having exact match, since we are passing it false over here, then it shall check the table, and in this table whatever is the selected range, in that it should return the third rows that columns value in whichever this Ajay is there. So we can see that Ajay is there in the 2nd column, so it should return us the value whichever is there in the 3rd row of that particular column, that is 1, 2, 3, that is Rahul. So therefore we are getting Rahul over here. We will try to check one more example of Hlookup. Now we'll try to check Bangalore. If Bangalore is there in our 1st row, then we'll try to return the value which is at the 5th position. If not, then it would return null. We'll again trying to check the exact match situation. Okay, so now since Bangalore is there, so it will return us something. So we are checking E12, that is we are giving reference of Bangalore. You can directly write string Bangalore here as well. Then we are giving range. Then we want 5th row value if it is matched of that particular row in which Bangalore is there. So Bangalore is there in which column? Our 5th column, that is cities. Then we'll get what value? 5th value if it is exact match. So what we should get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is Pune. So when we'll hit enter, we'll get Pune. So this is how your Hlookup and Vlookup works. They both are very similar. Just the one is leftmost column, vertical lookup. Other one is horizontal lookup, topmost row. Now let us see how our match function works. We have a different function called as match and index in Excel. They both go hand in hand. They both can be used together. But for that, let us now first try and understand match. what does this match function actually does is, it returns us the position of the value within the particular range which we are trying to look up with the certain row number. So you need to specify the particular row number of that particular range, and if it holds true, if that particular value is there, if that particular range is there, it would return you the fifth value or the particular number of value which we are mentioning in the second argument. So here you can see, for example, we have written match A33 A9. What this would mean, it would look up from third row of A column till ninth row of A column for fifth value. Whatever would be the fifth value, it would return that particular value to us. Hi, now let's try to see how match function works in Excel. Match function basically returns us the position of a value from a particular range. So we try to give value as an index as a first argument in the match function, and then try to look up that particular value in a certain range which we provide. So say, for example, if we have very big finance data and there is one particular entry which we are looking for. So that particular entry could be anywhere in that particular range which you are finding. So you know that particular value, but you don't know the number of position or that number of index of that particular value, so as to check all the other details of that particular value. So what you would do in this case, you could use match function. Here you just need to pass the first argument as the value, and then second argument would be the range in which you want to search this, and then output would be, for here the output would be your index number, which you could then go on directly and search for all the data of that particular row for all the columns. Now let's try and see how this match function works in Excel. So let's try and see and find out what is the position of 104 in this particular column. So for that, what we'll have to do is, we'll have to write 104 somewhere, or we could directly utilize this or write this 104 at a particular first argument position, and then on the second argument position we could give the range starting from A3 reference till A9, and then we would get the position, that is 5 in this case. So the code for this would be match our F13, that is reference for 104, and we are specifying the range as A3 to A9, and this value, that is 104, is present in the fifth position, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is why we are getting 5 output. That is the index number starting from the starting range. So let's try one more example to find this out. So for that, let's take age. Now we want to find out the details, or we want to find out the index of the parameter which is having age 34. I want to know the index of it. So what I'll do, I'll pass 34 as the first argument of my match. This is F16. So I have written F16. At F16 cell, I have taken 34. This 34 would be referred as our first argument. It will be searched in this range what we have specified, that is D13 to D9, and that would be this one which is highlighted in red. So from 23 to 12, it would search for 34. Wherever first it would get 34, it would return you the position of that value, that is 34. So the position is third in our case. This is how match function works.